Chapter 4, number 20. Kol hamanig atzmo b'drochim elu. One who lives his life, conducts himself based on the protocol which he set forth to live healthily rather than be involved in something which could compromise your health. Or of low, it will be pleasant for that person. Shenaboli decholi. Ultimately, he will not be susceptible for illness. Kol yomov achi yaskin. Only when a person gets old, only then will he be susceptible to things. But until that point, he will live a very pleasant, healthy life. Achi yaskin harbe, till he's very aged. V'yomus veda tzorch l'rofei. He will not have the doctor his whole life if you follow his prescription of life. V'yagufo sholem, his physically will be intact. V'omed al burio, his health will be on the optimum level. Kol yom, person all his life follows and makes sense. But a person has no genetic defects. He's not diabetic. He's not epileptic. He doesn't have heart issues. Everything, and they starts off on the right foot, and he keeps taking initiatives which are all responsible and healthy. He'll be healthy till the end of his life. He will not need a doctor. Okay? But he says, it's interesting. If you follow what he says, you'll even be healthy when you get older. Now, people up till a certain age, even if they abuse the health, person's 15 to, let's say, 30, eats, doesn't eat healthy, but the effect, he doesn't feel the effect of it. Person says, I'm fully healthy. But what happens when he reaches 40? It's not because when he's still at 40, his health now all of a sudden declines. It's because what he's been doing for the past 25, 30 years. So that's what he means. If you follow my prescription of life to live responsibly, you will not be susceptible to illness until the very end, when you become very aged. What about a young person? I'm not susceptible either. I'm 35 years old. I'm like a young person, healthy, everything. Because you haven't yet been compromised. As they say, there's an expression. He's a ticking time bomb. Ticking time bomb. It's just a question when it's going to go off. Once it goes off, then you feel the effect of what you've been doing wrong for the past 25 years. So it's interesting. A person wears a pair of pants and they're slightly snug on him because when he bought them, he was 25 pounds lighter. We're talking about Hager slacks that don't have the expandable waist. Okay, and he's reached his maximum, and he says, and what would another half a pound do? He bends over it. He splits the pants, but it's only a half a pound. You don't reckon it because when you reach that point, you go slightly over. It's over. The same thing with your health. You've been abusing it up to a certain point. You just go a little bit further. You're in your 40th year, 5 minutes. Now it's going to rain in on you because you went that little bit more. It's called tipping the scales. Literally, that's what it is. I'll give you an example. I think it's very accurate. A certain person's behavior is not acceptable, and you tolerate it. What does tolerating mean? Even though it's unpleasant, I tolerate it. In Hebrew, the word for patience is savlanut. In Hebrew, the word sovel means to suffer. Patience is a degree you have to suffer. You have to put up with other people. That's patience. Tolerance is I can tolerate you up to a point. But if it goes beyond that point, I can't tolerate you anymore. What does that mean? It's too much. But the too much is in addition to what preceded it. It's always that way. You reach a certain point, you go beyond that point, it's not acceptable. It's the same thing. Up to a point, you don't feel the effect. You go beyond that point, now the effect is there. Because it's what we call cumulative. It accumulates. Okay? What about a person who's born with an infirmity, with a genetic defect? That's something else. That person, he may, regardless of what you do, he's not going to live healthy because naturally he's not healthy. What about from get-go? He was never actually raised and in a proper environment from the very beginning. Let's say there's a plague. Contractible disease has nothing, you can be as healthy. God forbid there's a contractible disease, everybody's susceptible to it. Or let's say there's a lack of food in the world. It's not starvation, lack of food. And if the body becomes malnourished, you become vulnerable for many things. Number 21, Atovos, all these proper behavior patterns, the ones you conduct only the person is naturally healthy. You're naturally healthy. But a person is not well. Or he has a problem with one of his limbs. Or he abused his health many years. That person has to be dealt with, each person as an individual. He has to be evaluated and advised exactly what he has to do. As explained in the book of healing, medicine, this is very important. If you change your pattern, if normally you had a certain routine in your life, exercise, eating, everything else, sleep, and you change it, since the body functions in this pattern, the moment you make a change, you're disrupting the flow of energy, everything's disrupted. That's the beginning of what? Of vulnerability to illness. A person's always on the same routine, day in, day out, eating-wise, sleeping-wise, behavior-wise, that person will remain healthy. The moment you go off kilter, that's called shini veses. You change your pattern, the system is thrown off. Gemara says that, in the time of the Talmud, young children, elementary schools, studied 7 days a week. 7 days a week. Because children have to study and be taught Torah. However, on Shabbos, they would not learn new material, they would review the old material. Why would they only review, not learning new material? Because if you learn new material, you need an extra degree of attention and focus. And because children eat differently on Shabbos, like the adults do, because there's a mitzvah of owning Shabbos to eat and enjoy the food. So it's a different cuisine. That different cuisine throws the person off, and we don't function because we're going out of our routine. And going out of routine affects the attention span, the ability to focus. It's a disruption of pattern. You go with the flow, everything goes smoothly. You go out of the flow, things start getting a little choppy. And that's why you don't teach a child any new material, because it's much more difficult because of his change of eating. It's a different type of eating on Shabbos. So he's saying, whenever you change routine, it's tchilas choli. It's the beginning of an illness. Because it's a disruption. Whenever you're disrupted, there's usually a negative consequence. Komokom shein bo rofe. Let's say you have a location, there's no doctor. Whether you're healthy or not well, you should not deviate from all these various protocols that he's suggesting. You have a doctor, he could tweak it or evaluate you, whether you need more or less. But if there's no doctor, you couldn't follow a healthier pattern, although it's not perfect, but it's better not if you won't follow it. Okay? Because ultimately, the protocol is a very positive protocol. If you have a doctor, he could tell you what yes, what not. But if you have no doctor, you're better off in the right lane rather than the left lane. Shenemru, Shekol Echad ve'echad la'achras tov maybe. Kol ir sheba asar dvorim. The community does not have one of these 10 things. A Talmud Chacham Rashoy lo tocha. A Talmud Chacham should not live in that community. Here you have to have 10 things in place. Ve'elohein rofe, a doctor. Uman, that's a bloodletter. Beis HaMercha, it's a bathhouse. Beis HaKisei, basically, that's important. You realize you live in a community where people live like savages. It's not one location where all the waste goes. Basically, there's a location. So basically, the environment is healthy. But if you have people, they defecate all over. I'm not talking about animals, human beings. We're talking about this is infectious waste. You're being exposed to something which is not acceptable. So you have to have like official outhouses dug there where the feces go subterranean. Umayim mitzuyin go nor mayim. There should be a water source. Water is crucial and essential to be healthy. Ubeis HaKnesses, you should have a shul, a location to pray. Umalabitinoks, you have to have a teacher who's qualified to teach children. V'lavlo, you have to have a scribe. Tefillah, mezuzah, whatever it may be, a Sefer Torah. Gabay tzedakah, a person who oversees the communal charity chest. Or bezdin makom choshev, and a court which actually delivers verdicts which allow people or force people to behave properly. Even if they have to institute corporal punishment, doesn't make a difference. Because just to have a law and the law is not enforced, the law has no value. And to have a functional society, you have to have law and order. And that's the only way you can have law and order. So you have to have that court system which they enforce the laws. These are the 10 things. It's interesting. It always comes out certain numbers, 10. What are 10? 10 is a certain nivra olam. The world was created through 10 utterances of Hashem. Everything, so existence came through 10. You want to maintain the 10, you have to have 10 things in place. You have Aser Sadibros, the 10 commandments. Also, it's a reflection of what? What was the purpose of existence? Torah. Torah's 10 commandments. The world came about through 10 utterances. The function of the world which feeds it and gives it value are the 10 commandments. That's Aser Sadibros.